Hey, welcome back to Generation Oi. I'm your host, Oi. I know it's been a minute. Life's been lifing, and got married. So today I just want to talk about Crystal Lake. It's coming soon, and Friday the 13th. You know, the franchise and Jason Universe and everything. So let me start off by saying I'm glad that Victor Miller, Sean S. Cunningham, Jason Universe all got on page to do the Crystal Lake show. And I'm glad that the trailer, this teaser trailer that came out about a little bit over a month ago, I'm glad that it looks amazing. Honestly, I watched it probably 100 times that morning. And I think it looks great. Now, here's the one thing I want to say, because the same day that the previews came out, that trailer, we had the 4 images from Entertainment Weekly, and one thing we see in there is we see that Pamela is kind of smiling in one of the pictures, but when you watch this trailer, that smile is nowhere to be seen. I think Linda Cardellini is the right person to play Pamela Voorhees. Pamela Voorhees is such a great character. And I have one question. Why is it when we look at Pamela Voorhees and see her turn to taking out the ones responsible for taking out her loved one, she's considered a villain? But when you have guys from, like, the Marvel Universe, Frank Castle, the Punisher, same thing happened to him. Some gangsters took out his family, so he took the war to them, took them out. Everybody associated with them that was involved, took everybody out. Gets to the very end, there's no more of them. He moves cities and starts doing it again. He's considered a hero. Now, Pamela Voorhees, I just feel that she is no different than Frank Castle, honestly. Um, Another thing, I'm going to be jumping around all over the franchise and Crystal Lake, so bear with me. Roy Burns, Episode 5, A New Beginning. This movie gets so much hate because Roy Burns was not Jason Voorhees. I mean, he was not paying homage to Jason Voorhees. I honestly feel he was paying homage to Pamela Voorhees because he's basically the same thing. His son was left in care of the people of Pine Oaks, and they didn't watch as Joey met his end. Now, you want to know where I really think the big turning point is in Roy Burns, that he just snaps and loses it? So when you watch that movie, think about it, how when his partner, the other paramedic, raises the sheet and he's standing there, or he's kind of kneeling down there and he's chewing gum and he's like, hey, you want to check this out? And he's just got this little smirk on his face, and when it shows Roy Burns, or you see the anger building up in, and you know he's about to explode like a volcano. So he's basically Pamela Voorhees. He takes on the Jason moniker because, well, it's kind of acceptable. And, with him knowing the sheriff, maybe he heard from the sheriff that the Jarvis kid from, was there, Tommy Jarvis. Makes sense. So he goes on and takes on the Jason moniker. So I'm actually a huge fan of Part 5. I don't know why it gets so much hate. I get it. The MPAA butchered that movie. And, we get some, at the time, probably the two best death scenes in the movie, in the whole franchise. And the first one being the callback to the burning, because he used hedge clippers and stabbed the girl in her eyes. That is a great scene. Like, that at the moment, that is the best Jason kill in the franchise, my opinion. And then right after that, we see the leather strap go around the face, and stick goes in there, and he just keeps twisting it till it crushes the skull. That was a great scene. But a kill that I would love to have seen on film, because it probably would have been the best kill. It happens off screen, and that's what happens to Matt, the main guy from Pinehurst, when he has the railroad spike through his head and he's against the tree. It's a great kill. Like, if they would have showed that, that probably would have been the greatest kill before part 10, before Jason X, or part 7, because the sleeping bag kill is my favorite. And then Jason X, the cryogenic freeze and slamming on the face. Those are amazing. The practical effects that they have used in the franchise were just brilliant. You would never be able to recreate any of that with CGI and it look as good as what those did. You know, I'm a huge fan of part 2. I think part 3 is sloppy and was filmed in 3D just to be a gimmick, because Jaws 3D, you know, movies were coming out with a part 3 and they would call it 3D. Makes sense. Something cutting edge for the time, but you know, part 2 is great. I still think Jenny might be the best final girl in the franchise. I'm a huge fan of part 7. Everybody hates it because they're like, oh, it's Jason versus Carrie. I don't care. It's pretty good. I admit, Jason Takes Manhattan is a rough watch. I don't understand the slimy suit. You know, honestly, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday is definitely the worst in the franchise. Creighton Duke, I get it. He was originally supposed to be Tommy Jarvis. They couldn't get the rights to Tommy Jarvis, so they created Creighton Duke. I'm sorry. Now, the funny thing about that is they could have easily thrown a call back to Tommy Jarvis. Like, if you take out the whole, if anybody knows the movie The Hidden, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you take out that aspect of it, because it was almost a direct ripoff of The Hidden to have Jason body swap like that. But honestly, I'm not part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, has so many horrible plot holes. But if they wanted to pay homage to Jason, to Tommy Jarvis, they really could have. All they needed was for Creighton Duke to be sitting there at that interview and be like, I know how to take out Jason. Worked with a guy for years who went toe-to-toe with Jason a few times. One time he was like 10 years old. Everybody's going to know who he's talking about. Little lines like that, you're not breaking anything wrong, because who's to say it ain't somebody else? I mean, but yeah, you know, I get it. The continuity is not in the cards when it comes to Friday the 13th. That's pretty obvious when he goes from looking like a long-haired hillbilly with a beard in part 2 to being bald with, I kind of want to say he looks like his nose might be a pig nose. Um, just not round. But, and then in part 4, he's completely different bald guy. It's like that's like casting 3 different actors to play the same character in 3 sequels. It just didn't, the continuity was never there. And I do get it. Part 6 and 7, yeah, he kind of looks similar. You know, part 8 even, I think he might even kind of look similar without the mask. But, you know, those things, we can overlook them because we're fans. We're fans of the franchise. I mean, we're still sitting here. What has it been? 16 years, 17 years since the last Friday the 13th movie. And we're still sitting here waiting for a sequel. And no matter how bad the trailer looks, we're going to run out throwing our money saying, take my money. I mean, that's how we are. We're horror fans, and we love it. Let me step back to Crystal Lake now. I've been excited for this since day one. Ever since I heard about it. When Fuller was attached to it as the showrunner, I know what he did with Hannibal, and I was impressed. And I was thinking, yeah, this might be the right guy for it. Then they lost him. Then it looked like we would never see it. And then about a year ago, I remember them saying, "Hey, you know, they're getting ready to start filming." And everybody's like, "This show's never coming out." It's not out yet, and I'm still hearing people say it's never coming out. I mean, it's going to be at New York Comic Con on the 8th. They're going to be premiering the first episode there. And if I was closer to New York and could get tickets, I would definitely go see it. I think Linda Cardellini's an amazing actress. I think she's gonna humanize Pamela Voorhees in a way that when this happens and she snaps, I honestly think we're still gonna love her. We're still gonna be cheering for her, hoping she gets away with it. You know, I've got theories. I got some theories, and I kind of just want to say a few things. And all right, so most people refer to the character Crazy Ralph from the original, the original 2 Friday the 13th movies. You know, you're doomed. Camp Blood, you're doomed. Yeah, that guy. Everybody says, "Oh, he's the town drunk." Think about when you watch those movies. Do you ever see him take a drink out of a bottle? No, but you do see him riding a bicycle pretty well. Now, I have talked to doctors, police officers, paramedics, firefighters, nurses, people that work in like rehabs and stuff, and they have told me when a person is intoxicated, the hardest thing for them to do in the world is ride a bicycle. So I don't think he's a drunk. Now this goes back to Crystal Lake now. You know, since Crystal Lake is being set in the 70s, let's say that Crazy Ralph, with it being the 70s and him being older, so he would have been in school in the late 50s, early 60s. You know, let's say that they didn't know that people had like learning disabilities. Maybe he was dyslexic, maybe, you know, something like that. So he had a difficult time in school. He didn't really get a good job. Okay, let's say he becomes a groundskeeper at Crystal Lake. You know, He's in charge of cutting the grass, taking the trash out, all that. Doing maintenance stuff. And so he's there and he's working, and he sees the two counselors go away as Jason's in the water and Jason's drowning, and this guy doesn't know how to swim. He's hollering for help and nobody comes to help, instead of jumping in, because he knows if he jumps in and he can't swim, they're both going to drown. And I seen an official picture. Well, it was from the set where they're filming an official scene, but this snapshot that I seen, it's Crazy Ralph talking to Linda Cardellini. Now, let's say that's exactly what happened, and he tells her, hey, those two, Barry and Claudette, are the ones that, went off to do what they did and left Jason there to die. So Jason drowned. And, I keep going back to the camp being, I keep thinking of it as like the town's moneymaker. So if we say a kid drowned at the camp, we lose a lot of money this summer. If we sweep it under the rug, we keep making a profit. Kind of similar to the mayor in Jaws. Now, the real funny thing here, let's say that Ralph knew all along that it got swept under the rug, and he kept trying to tell him, hey, they went off and the boy drowned. So if that's even in the show and they do this, that's great storytelling, because it shows why in the original movie Pamela saw Ralph there. She spared him. But in the sequel, Ralph's at the camp and Jason gets him. Jason doesn't realize the guy couldn't swim, that the guy was up there screaming trying to help him. He just knows, you was there while I was drowning and you didn't save me, so you're going out. I mean, it makes sense. These are just speculated theories here. I do want to talk about a theory that I have for that first body you see on the previews with the black hair, and she's got like a flower in her hair. Now, and I don't remember the characters' names right off, but I do know there is an African American detective and his sister who is a journalist. They show up. Now, the detective and Pamela have a past. We don't know anything about Jason's dad, and other than they named him Elias Voorhees, and Jason Goes to Hell. So let's say this officer was an officer back when Jason was very young. Let's say Elias was beating Pamela. And Pamela, we get that scene where she's wearing, where she's got her faces covered in blood except for the whites around her eyes. How do we know that ain't her first kill and that was Elias? And let's say that this officer knew about it, but he had been there several times over domestic violence, and at that time period, they didn't really do anything to the man for that, so he just kind of turns a blind eye. She leaves. This happens. But I'm thinking that body you see, I think is going to be his sister, the journalist, and I think she's going to come up close to finding out that Pamela was responsible for some things. I think Pamela's going to get her. I think that's going to be the first victim. Or not really the first victim, but the victim you see in that first scene for Crystal Lake. I'm really excited for the show. I'm not mad that they set it in the 1970s instead of the 1958. I think it works well. I think it's going to be a great show. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but we're never going to see an adult Jason. They cast adult Jason in this show. Um, I'm just looking so forward to it. You know, I grew up on the franchise. The first time I seen either of them, I watched like part one on, say, I'm not certain the channel, but I watched it on one of the premium cable channels. I watched part one on like a Wednesday or a Thursday night because on a different rival station, part two was getting ready to premiere that Friday night. So kind of watched both of them. And then I remember part three coming out on cable and watching it. And I remember it was a Saturday night. We had a huge storm this night, but the night that uh, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, premiered on the movie channel. And actually, the storm wasn't that night. It was the night after. It was that Sunday night. It might have stormed a little bit on Friday night or Saturday night, but I just remember the excuse me. I remember a huge storm as a kid. But yes, I've always been a fan of these. Um, Jason's my favorite slasher. It's one of my favorite series, but there is a series that I do prefer over the Friday the 13th, and I'll admit it, it's Scream. So, yeah. But you know, I'm gonna be bringing more content, more shows. I just hadn't done this in a while. I did 2 episodes back like in a week, and then life happened, and I've been saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna get back," and I just went ahead and broke down and did it right now. I didn't even make a script. I just kind of winged it. So I hope you can accept that, and I hope I can get y'all to come back because I'm gonna start doing a whole lot more content. Um, if, if you could subscribe to me, I'd appreciate it. So thank you for coming in, and I'm gonna give a shout out to some people close to me. It told me, to do this. So, but I'm back. I'm Oi, and this is Generation Oi. And I didn't just grow up with it, I lived it. So, thank you.